G'day, I'm just doing some last minute checks before heading off. I'm travelling north on a trip that'll take me almost 4,000 kilometres up through some of the most remote and rugged parts of Australia. It's important when doing a trip like that, especially on your own, that everything's where it needs to be. This trip is going to take me from Perth, inland through the Wheatbelt, up through the Mallee to the coast, head coastal for a bit, through the Pilbara, up into the Kimberley, across the Kimberley, then eventually into Darwin. Better get moving. Got a few Ks to do. After driving a couple of hours to the east of Perth, it was time to get out, stretch the legs, and take a look at some of the extraordinary granite formations that this area is famous for. Have a look at that. What a view. I'm standing on top of a granite outcrop overlooking Lake Balaji and Lake Balaji Nature Reserve in West Australia's Wheatbelt. This area is the most cleared area in the whole of Australia. The Wheatbelt, 93% of the entire landmass has been cleared for agriculture, leaving just these tiny little granite outcrops surrounded by bush as vital refuges for wildlife. So many species wouldn't exist today without these little patches of bush. Vitally important, very interesting places to explore. These impressive granite outcrops were formed millions of years ago when molten rock cooled and turned to hard stone. Subsequent wind, sand and water erosion have carved out these stunning wave-like walls and caverns. One thing you just can't avoid about outback Australia is the flies. They're everywhere. You just got to make amends, make friends with them. Never alone in the bush. As the sun sets in the bush, it signals the change of guard, from the diurnal to the nocturnal wildlife. You hear that? Burrowing frogs. The recent rain has meant all these burrowing frogs have emerged out of the ground. They've spent the whole summer underground, take a gulp of water, bury themselves. When the rain comes and fills these little pools, they emerge from the ground and get busy. They breed, lay their eggs. The tadpoles grow really quickly. They don't know how long these pools of water are going to stay around. Go into a frog, take another big gulp of water, and go back underground. They can be underground for months and months on end. Incredible. I hadn't quite made camp and decided to push on into the dark. This track hadn't been used in a while, but I knew it led to a huge salt lake surrounded by shady eucalypts. Perfect spot to stop and roll out the swag. Hello. This little fella's been stunned by the car headlights and won't get off the road. He's an Australian owlet nightjar. He's a small nocturnal bird. Feeds on insects. His calls are one of the most common sounds you'll hear in the bush at night, all around Australia. You hardly ever see these guys. Very secretive, but absolutely beautiful. Come on, mate. Off you go. After a good night's sleep, how is this for a view to wake up to? Have a look at this. Spectacular. If I was here last week, this lake would be completely dry. It's been a long, hot, dry summer, and these big salt lakes are usually dry. We had big storms come through last week, dump a heap of rain in the Wheatbelt, and filled all these ephemeral lakes. What a land of contrast. Just stunning. Now it's time to get out of the Wheatbelt and into the Great Western Woodlands, the largest Mediterranean woodlands left anywhere on the planet. Let's check it out. As I bumped and rattled my way deeper into the scrub, the bush got thicker and the track got smaller, until I couldn't go any further. Trouble. big rains had washed the track right out, and I really didn't know whether I was going to be able to get through. Well, I've come to this bit of the road. I'm trying to get deep into the Western Woodlands, the Great Western Woodlands, and this bit of the road's been washed away. I drove into the night last night, so I woke up this morning, tried to finish this track. It's a big loop track through a conservation reserve in the Western Woodlands, really remote area. But after driving for a couple of hours, this kind of looks like the end of the road. What I might have to do is give a crack, get some work done, and maybe see if I can fix up the road a bit and get through. A bit of elbow grease with a pick and shovel, and I soon had the track looking good. After about half an hour's work, I think I've got the road so it's passable. We'll have to give it a go. Wish us luck. Made it through after a bit of road work, a bit of sweat, and a few tense moments. We made it through the tough section, so that's good. It means I don't have to turn back and go back a couple of hours. We can keep going into the Great Western Woodlands. Here we go. This is what I've come to have a look at. This granite hill should get a great view of the surrounding bush. The Great Western Woodlands is the largest and healthiest temperate woodlands remaining on Earth. At around 40 million acres of bush, it's bigger than the area of England and Wales. When you're driving these outback roads, always pays to watch out for wildlife. There's a couple of little critters out here that quite like the road. If I'm lucky, I might be able to find one. Keep an eye out. Oh, this is what I've been after. Look at this little fella. Unbelievable. This guy is a thorny devil. He's the only member of his genus. Really, really unique lizard. This guy eats ants. He sits there, and as the ants are running in a line, every third or fourth ant he picks out, grabs the ant, so they don't know that they're being under attack. He's got this brilliant camouflage. Spiky, looks really hard and spiky. They're actually quite soft. But if he gets threatened, like he's probably feeling a little threatened now, he can drop his head. He's got a fake head there and looks really tough and spiky, but really very gentle little slow-moving lizard. Stunning. Now, what I want to show you here is something really unique about this lizard. Just going to put him in this tiny little dish here. Get some water. Now I'm just going to pour a tiny little bit of water in the bottom of this dish. That's plenty. And oh, it's already, just like that, the entire lizard is wet. So rather than drinking through his mouth, this guy can draw up water out of the wet earth, suck it up through his skin, and direct it into his mouth. He doesn't have to put his head down and drink at all. The tiny little bit of water I just put in the bottom of this dish, now the entire lizard is wet. He sucked it all up. What an extraordinary adaptation for life in arid areas. You can see there from that tiny bit of water on the bottom of the dish, all his skin's wet. He's sucking the moisture up right through his skin, and it will go all the way, directing it into his mouth. Go, put him off the road after his little drink. Off you go, mate. Back on the road, I came across an unusual outback traffic jam. Look at this, how's this for a roadblock? Trying to overtake a mob of emus. Come on guys, get off the road. Poor fellas. After a great couple of days, it was time to turn in and get some much needed sleep. Next day, I'd be heading north. Well, I've had a great night's sleep. Got the billy on the boil. It's been a really good couple of days exploring the bush, but now I'm going to head to the coast, heading in to Kalbarri National Park on WA's coast, and then head north up the Coral Coast, explore some of Ningaloo Reef and Shark Bay. Should be fun. Lizard. Oh, look at this little fella. Hey mate, you're all right. Whee! This is a blue-tongue lizard. He's a member of the skink family. Whee! Here we go. You're all right, little buddy. I don't want to hurt you. He's a member of the skink family. This guy eats insects, things like that. As a threat display, he puts out that blue tongue, tries to make himself look scary and keep you away. Absolutely stunning lizard. This one's in really good condition, real fat. Beautiful pattern, really chubby little fella. Hey mate, you're all right. I'll leave you alone. Right. On your way. Just stopped for a look around. I'm in the Goldfields region of WA, not far from the town of Yalgoo. And the hills through here are scattered with these tunnels. In the late 1800s, gold was discovered in the region, and that brought people in droves, and everyone was digging in the ground trying to find that shiny yellow rock. Tunnels like this today make a fantastic refuge for wildlife. In this hot, dry climate, the cool, dark caves provide home for bats and reptiles and all sorts of things. Definitely worth a look. Have a look through here. There are bats everywhere. Oi! Look out. Bats love these cool, dark places, and this place is alive. Look at the patterns on this little skink. Awesome. Look at him go. The roof is covered in these cave crickets. They're deafening. Hey, Mr. Spider, out feeding on crickets. Look at all these bats. They are everywhere. Beautiful. Hey, look at that. Hey, little buddy, what are you? So many different species of bats in one cave. Unreal. Not a bad view when you get out either. How about that? I pushed on and made a few kilometres until nature called. That's better. I finally hit the headwaters of the mighty Murchison River and spent the next couple of days following it to the coast. Well, this is something special. You can hear the bush rejoice. A few weeks ago this was completely dry. It's been a long, hot, dry summer, end of a very, very dry period. And last week, big late summer rains came through, the biggest summer rains they've had in years. They've filled all these creeks and rivers. Everything's come alive. I'm seeing the country at almost its best. You know, another couple of weeks' time it'll look even better. There's green pick everywhere, these rivers are flowing, full of fish, and the birds are having a drink, the kangaroos, everything's in its best condition. It's amazing what a bit of water can do to the outback. The outback's alive with birds after a good rain, and they were out in force. Chiming Wedgeville. I followed the river on foot until I came to the mighty Murchison River Gorge. I could hear the rushing water below, and I knew I had to get down for a closer look and perhaps a cooling dip. How's this for a view? This is the Murchison River, a bit further down, where it zigzags through this really steep gorge. It's been carved out over hundreds of millions of years of erosion through this ancient sandstone bed. Extraordinary view and an amazing timescale. The temperature in this part of the world regularly hits 40 degrees Celsius, and after a few weeks in the sun without a good wash, I was eager to get in the water. That's better. I don't mind saying I needed that. It's been a few weeks since I had a shower and even I can smell myself, so you know it's time. All that water I've been following the last couple of days, flowing down the Murchison River, this is where it ends up, in Kalbarri National Park, in the Murchison River Gorge. It flows out to sea. It's a huge basin, and when you get these late summer rains, all that fills up, comes down and floods out this gorge. Hasn't flowed like this in a few years, so it's good to see. Relax and take it in. It was getting dark by the time I made camp, and in the Pilbara, nighttime is when snakes come alive. Not a bad sized mulga snake, and she's on the hunt. See those tongue flicks? She's using her incredible sense of smell to pick up scent particles on her tongue, and she touches them to an organ on the roof of her mouth called a Jacobson's organ, and that tells her if a snake or a rodent's been by recently and which way it went. Deadly venomous, but not at all worried about me. Beautiful snake. Next morning saw me on the road early and eager to see the ocean. I've made it to the coast. After a big drive, I'm on West Australia's Coral Coast. I'm heading north to make camp up at a place called Cape Perrin. Just bouncing my way through the sand dune country now, where the desert meets the sea. Really special part of the world. Look at all these cormorants. I've never seen so many cormorants in one place. Must be plenty of fish. Look at these ghost crabs scurrying around the beach and cleaning up where the cormorants miss. Look at them go. Walking on these remote beaches where you're the only human footprint on the beach, you never know what you'll find. Look at this. That's a big turtle. Probably been eaten by a shark. Lots of reasons why turtles might die out here. I don't know what species it is. It's a bit too far decayed and it stinks. It was way too hot and the water looked far too inviting not to go for a swim. I was just about relaxed when I spotted something down the beach. Goat on the beach. What are you doing, old goatie? Wonders never cease. A defensive strategy for goats is to play dead, and this one's doing a pretty good job of it. Further down the coast, off a headland, I spotted something in the water. This is something really special. We've got a dolphin in the shallows here. hunting, and in this part of the world they drive fish right up into the shallows onto the beach and then flap around, grab them from the beach and then make their way back. To see a dolphin in such shallow water so close is incredible. I'm just keeping my distance so I don't disturb it. There's a lot of sharks around here too, so I've got to be careful if I'm in the water. The sharks hang around the dolphin, and if the dolphin gets a feed, the sharks get a free feed at the same time. What an incredible place.
I spent the next hour with this beautiful animal, watching her cruise up and down the coast, looking for a feed. At times, she got so close, I could have reached out and touched her. Sharing so much time with such a graceful predator is something I'll never forget. Doesn't matter how many times I do it, I never get sick of watching the sunset over the ocean. Next morning, I was up with the sun and heading further north, ready for a big day snorkeling on the pristine corals of Ningaloo Reef. With no dive camera, you'll have to imagine the beauty of Ningaloo Reef, but believe me, it was spectacular. Tucked out the back of Ningaloo is this little known gorge that's well worth the hike.
If I look that way, I'm looking at the world famous, World Heritage listed Ningaloo Reef. I've just spent the day snorkeling with sharks and stingray and turtle. An extraordinary place, one of the most amazing coral reef systems I've ever seen. Behind me is a place far fewer people know. This is Yardie Creek Gorge in the same national park you go to snorkel on Ningaloo Reef, Cape Range National Park. It's an enormous limestone range that runs parallel with the coast, and out of that range has been cut this gorge by big cyclonic wet season rains. At the moment it's not open to the ocean, which is quite interesting because I've just spotted a big sea turtle trapped in the river. So maybe he can crawl over the sand back to the ocean, or he's stuck in here till it opens up. This gorge here provides really vital habitat for species like the black-flanked rock wallaby. We've just seen nankeen kestrel soaring over, a western bowerbird, osprey even use these cliffs here to nest. Unbelievable, very, very special. Whew.
The steep limestone walls of the gorge provide sanctuary and refuge for the threatened black-flanked rock wallaby. Back at camp, this Spinifex hopping mouse provided me with some late night entertainment. Where there's small mammals, you'll get snakes.
Here we have a death adder. Look at this fella. Incredibly venomous ambush predator. Uses his cute little tail there as a caudal lure. He wiggles it in front of his head like a little worm, and then a mouse or something small comes to investigate, and bang, sinks those fangs in. Wow, look at him. Well, a cyclone came through and dumped a heap of rain down through the Pilbara, which has been a few of the places I wanted to stop off and have a look. Too much rain, the roads are all washed out. So I've headed north and I've made it up into the Kimberley and decided to head down into the Tanami Desert and check out Wolf Creek Crater, an enormous meteorite crater, one of the biggest in the world. Should be worth a look. It's only 120 kilometres off the main highway, so just a short detour. Look at that. I've always wanted to come here and check this out. Behind me is what's known as the Wolf Creek Crater. 300,000 years ago, an enormous meteorite weighing thousands of tons crashed into Earth, flew through space and smashed into the Earth right here. This giant rim was forced up out of the ground when the rock hit.
would have been something to see. 850 metres across, and it's the second largest meteorite crater anywhere in the world where you can still find lumps of meteorite. Whitefellas didn't discover this place till the late 40s. Flying over, a geologist noticed this huge hole in the ground and recognised it as a meteorite crater. Extraordinary place. Amazing to think about that. Thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago. What an impact. Being the only person for 100 kilometres in any direction, one thing I wonder is what were these flies doing before I got here?
Nothing beats watching the sun go down and the stars come out and cooking a feed over an open fire in the bush. Next day, I'd need all the energy I could get. I made it up to the Kimberley and was hiking to find a waterfall I spotted in a small plane flying over a few years back. I've wanted to look for it ever since. Found it.
Have a look at this.
This is a banded tree snake. Some people call them night tigers. These guys are incredibly good climbers. They're rear-fanged, mildly venomous. One of the most beautiful snakes we have up in the top of Australia. Look how great he is at climbing that vertical wall. They hide out in these caves, eating frogs and small birds that come down to have a drink.
Well, it took about an hour and a half to get in here, but I think it was worth the walk. It is stinking hot. I'm sweating bullets. Looking forward to getting in for a swim. Oh, magnificent. Oh.
Back on the road, I had one more spot I wanted to check out.
Oh, wow. Have a look at this. Stunning. Well, this tells me I'm home, back in the crocodile country. It's been an incredible trip. 4,000 kilometres, seen some amazing things, but it's good to be home. Catch you next time.